I am truly honored to be here with you tonight, and I'm very proud and excited to be inducted into the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame. I'd like to congratulate all the others, some of whom I know extremely well and have done a lot of work with whom I'm sharing this wonderful, wonderful evening. Although I've sat behind a microphone and been interviewed many, many times on both radio and television over the years, I by no means have ever been a broadcast announcer or analyst. During my years as owner of the Brewers, those in the press box frequently heard my analysis of what was taking place on the field of play, and they would probably say my critiques were certainly more profane than accurate. That is an understatement. With the Brewers, I did make one important contribution to the world of sports broadcasting. My first hire was Bob Uecker. No, not as a broadcaster, but as a scout. His somewhat less than distinguished playing career had come to an end, which I must say is a very charitable description of his playing career. And I assigned him to work with frantic Frank Lane, our general manager at the time. Frank had the reputation of being a tough, no-nonsense type of guy. One afternoon, shortly after Uecker joined his staff, Frank stormed into my office at County Stadium in Milwaukee, frantically waving a piece of paper. "Look at this," he shouted. "Uecker's scouting report." Well, it's a mess. I can't read his writing. He's got food stains all over it. What am I supposed to do with him? Well, I'll tell you what it had. It had mashed potatoes and gravy all over it. And that became my problem. But we did have, in 1971, a vacancy in the broadcast booth. The rest is history. I wish Bob were here tonight. He's in the broadcasting wing of baseball's Hall of Fame, and those of you who are familiar with his work and sense of humor know he would certainly have a few interesting comments about my induction into the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame. Let me say to you, he's already made those to me personally. I've been an avid sports fan, for those of you, and there are a fair number in this audience who know me well, all my life. Baseball, of course, has always been my favorite. In my opinion, obviously, will surprise none of you, it's the greatest game ever invented. I've always said that baseball is a social institution with very important social responsibility. That was never more evident than on April 15, 1947, the day that Jackie Robinson stepped on a Major League Baseball field in Ebbets Field, Brooklyn, for the first time, and brought an end to the dreadful segregation that existed in our sport. That came before Harry Truman integrated the United States Army, before the historic Brown versus Board of Education Supreme Court decision, before Rosa Parks took her rightful seat on the front of the bus, and more than a decade before the Civil Rights Movement began to make an impact in our great country. Over the years, there's been many examples of baseball's role as a social institution, and there have been many, many occasions in which baseball and the sports broadcasting industry together have worked for the betterment of our society. And throughout my long career of over 55 years in baseball, I've witnessed how the explosion of television's popularity has paralleled the explosion of baseball's popularity. The broadcast industry has been good for baseball, and baseball has been good for broadcasting. Baseball was first broadcast on radio station KDKA in Pittsburgh on August 5, 1921. And 2 months later, the first World Series was broadcast on KDK and also on WJZ in Newark, New Jersey. Fans throughout our country have been watching the World Series on television now, it's hard to believe, for 70 years. We watched first on black and white television, then in color, where we're able to see baseball's great and massive expanse of green, which translated, I must say, beautifully on television. As a kid growing up, loving the game of baseball, and later as a club owner, and then on to the commissionership, the idea that every game of every team in baseball would be televised everywhere, every day, was a beautiful dream. And I'm proud that during my tenure as commissioner, we made that dream come true. Through our partnership with television, we brought baseball into homes, into sports bars, and eventually onto cell phones all over the world. We brought our great game to all our fans, including those older and disabled, who gratefully welcome our broadcasts every day. Together, we've produced and experienced great drama, like the shot heard round the world, Russ Hodges' famous call of Bobby Thompson's game-winning home run that gave the Giants the 1951 pennant over the Brooklyn Dodgers. Hank Aaron's record-breaking home run in 1974. Dramatic Carlton Fisk home run in the Boston-Cincinnati World Series of 1975. Reggie Jackson's 3 home runs in one game in the 1977 World Series. And let's not forget Cal Ripken, trotting around the ballpark, acknowledging the appreciation of the Baltimore fans when he officially broke Lou Gehrig's consecutive streak in 1995. Television also was there 2 years later, when baseball honored the 50th anniversary of Jackie Robinson's entry into Major League Baseball. That night, as you saw on television, as the baseball commissioner, I retired Jackie's uniform number 42 in perpetuity in a special ceremony at Shea Stadium. It featured my friend Rachel Robinson, Jackie's widow, and President Clinton. One of the most special examples of social responsibility, and all of you who know me well know I believe that baseball is a social institution, as I've said, shared by both baseball and the broadcasting industry, occurred during the 2001 World Series, shortly after the horrific 9/11 attack, when President George W. Bush threw out the game's first ball and demonstrated to the world that our country would not bend to terrorism, that our country would forever stand for freedom. Thanks to baseball and television, we watched these impactful events together. Throughout my years in baseball, I interacted with the broadcasting industry at both the local and national levels, making broadcast deals with local affiliates when I was with the Brewers and national affiliates during my term as commissioner. I worked closely, and I can only mention some, I'd like to mention more, with really great television executives. There's Dick Ebersol, Chase Carey, David Hill, my friend George Bodenheimer, and they're all friends of mine, and many others. And I believe that every decision I made was for the betterment of the game and for our partners, especially our broadcasting partners. I'm delighted in the great talent and ability of baseball broadcasters who have served so well in the history of this game, from Mel Allen to the great Vince Scully, from Jack Buck to Joe Buck, from Red Barber to Bob Costas, not to mention Kurt Gowdy, Ernie Harwell, the aforementioned Russ Hodges, and many, many others. As the great Irish playwright George Bernard Shaw once said, "You see things and you say why, but I dream things that never were, and I say, why not?" I believe in those words, and that's why there was such a dramatic change during my 23 years as commissioner. We implemented 3 divisions, created the wild card, restructured the game's financial system, which led to a competitive balance better than we've ever had before. The restructuring of the financial system also led to improved relations with the player relations, and we're now going to have 27 years of labor peace. We implemented interleague play, created, as I said before, the World Baseball Classic, built more than 20 new ballparks. We introduced BAM and the MLB Network, which certainly have been remarkable success stories. But most important, we made the game more appealing and more accessible to our fans, both at the ballpark and on television, because of all of you. Working together, our game is more popular than ever before. And as you saw me say there, and I'm going to say it again tonight, because this honor means a great deal to me and to my family, my wife, On my last day in January as Commissioner of 2015, I spoke before the New York Baseball Writers' Dinner, and I told them, what you see here before your eyes is a little boy's dreams that came true. That remains true today, and that's the way I look at how lucky I've been the last 55 years. This has been quite a remarkable journey, and being inducted in the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame is yet another beautiful and appreciated honor. I thank you. It is a pleasure to be here tonight.